what is the State of the Union now? It's a jeering show. It's a public TV show this year for Donald Trump to rant, for the U.S. hockey team to stand up, for somebody who's got a medal to stand up, to tell stories, to berate the Democrats in the case of Trump's speech. There was no work program discussed. There was no state of the nation other than phony sound bites. This was the opposite of any kind of serious approach to governance. So I feel this across the board. Of course, I am not in military planning. No one asked me, but I'm watching the economic activities of the government. It's completely haphazard, totally haphazard. The whole tariff war last year, which disrupted the world economy, was seat of the pants, impulsivity, crazy, naive explanations of what was done. And from my point of view, from the first day, absolutely doomed to fail in achieving any of the actual economic objectives that were stated because it was so primitive in its formulation. And I thought brazenly illegal from the start. And the work of 4 or 5 people only. This was not the work of a bureaucracy that had trained analysts that had made an explanation. There was a 1-pager from the U.S. trade representative that I wouldn't have passed a first-year trade student for producing. It was an absurdity. And so I see that repeatedly in any sphere of public policy issues that I'm dealing with. And it's rather clear that the same is true even on these military issues, because we hear the leaks. We hear from Joe Kent. We hear from the leaks from the Joint Chiefs. We hear the leaks from the CIA, that none of this is planned. None of it makes sense, explaining to Trump that the idea that a decapitation strike is going to lead to regime change is very unlikely to succeed. We have stories, true or not, who knows, but stories that Netanyahu talked Trump into this at a personal level. What we have is a complete collapse of institutionalized rational processes. This is true across all our government. It's amazing anything works, by the way. Really, nobody does any serious work. Everything is a game. Everything is a soundbite. Everything is an impulse. And it seems that this is how this bombing went, that they were going to bomb, and then Donald Trump was going to pick the next supreme leader, as he said, and there was going to be unconditional surrender, and that we were going to live happily ever after. And when that delusion failed within a few minutes, they didn't have a next plan. And so it's improvisation from morning till night. You wouldn't think that this is how this is done, but you wouldn't think that a person like Trump could actually be president of the United States, much less a CEO of a significant business. I mean, it's amazing. But it's normalized, Glenn. You know, Trump says these things, and then all the newspapers, instead of asking, is the man crazy? Or how could he say there are negotiations when there were none? They don't say that. They say, well, will Donald Trump succeed in the negotiations? As if this is a serious thing rather than technical term, shit show. Because there's no seriousness in this right now. It's total improv.
You just heard Dr. Jeffrey Sachs, economist, Columbia professor, and one of the few voices in the American elite willing to speak truth, deliver a shocking reality. The United States government has become a jeering show, not serious governance, not thoughtful policy, but a public spectacle where Trump rants, tells stories, and berates Democrats. Sachs describes Trump's State of the Union as having no war program discussed, no state of a nation other than phony sound bites. This wasn't just another speech. This was the opposite of any kind of serious approach to governance. And Sachs sees this pattern everywhere, from economic policy to military decisions. The entire government has collapsed into improvisation from morning till night. There's no planning, no analysis, no next steps when the first plan fails. Just impulse after impulse. Let's start with what Sachs calls the jeering show of the State of the Union. This wasn't a policy address. It was a performance. Trump ranted. The U.S. hockey team stood up. Some medal winner stood up. But where was the substance? Sachs points out, there was no work program discussed. There was no state of the nation. Just phony sound bites. This is symptomatic of something deeper. The complete absence of serious policy discussion. The replacement of governance with entertainment. The transformation of the presidency from a position of leadership to a reality TV role. And the most disturbing part? The media doesn't call it out. Instead of asking, is the man crazy? They ask, will Donald Trump succeed in the negotiations? As Sachs puts it, they don't say that. They say, well, will Donald Trump succeed in the negotiations? As if this is a serious thing rather than technical term. Sorry, Shirto. This normalization of chaos is perhaps the most dangerous aspect of all. Now, consider the economic policies. Sachs describes the tariff war as completely haphazard, totally haphazard, not the product of careful analysis, not the work of trained economists, but seat of the pants impulsivity. Sachs didn't hold back. From my point of view, from the first day, absolutely doomed to fail in achieving any of the actual economic objectives that were stated because it was so primitive in its formulation. And it gets worse. He calls it brazenly illegal from the start. And who created this policy? Not a team of experts, not a government bureaucracy, but the work of 4 or 5 people only. Sachs was particularly scathing about the documentation. There was a one-pager from a U.S. trade representative that I wouldn't have passed a first-year trade student for producing. It was an absurdity. This wasn't policy. It was performance, designed to look strong while having no real economic foundation. Now let's examine the military decisions. Sachs reveals something terrifying. We hear the leaks. We hear from Joe Kent. We hear the leaks from the Joint Chiefs. We hear the leaks from the CIA that none of this is planned. No serious analysis. No contingency planning. Just improvisation. Sachs describes Trump's thinking about Iran. They were going to bomb, and then Donald Trump was going to pick the next supreme leader, as he said, and there's going to be unconditional surrender, and that we were going to live happily ever after. This wasn't a strategy. It was a fantasy. And when that delusion failed within a few minutes, there was no next plan. Just more improvisation. Sachs quotes military experts, explaining to Trump that the idea that a decapitation strike is going to lead to regime change is very unlikely to succeed. But the warnings went unheeded. Why? Because, as Sachs suggests, stories that Netanyahu talked Trump into this at a personal level. This isn't how serious nations make war decisions. This is how reality shows create drama. Sachs identifies the core problem. This is the complete collapse of institutionalized rational processes. It's not just one policy area. It's not just one administration. It's a systemic failure across the entire government. Sachs states plainly, this is true across all our government. It's amazing anything works. Think about that. The world's most powerful nation, with its nuclear arsenal, global military presence, and economic influence, is being run without rational processes. No serious work, no trained analysts, no contingency planning. Just everything is a game. Everything is a soundbite. Everything is an impulse. This isn't governance. This is a reality show with nuclear weapons. And the most terrifying part? It's normalized. People have become so used to the chaos that they don't even recognize it as abnormal. Consider what Sachs says about the media's role in this normalization. Instead of calling out the absurdity, the media treats Trump's statements as legitimate policy proposals. When Trump claims negotiations are happening when there are none, the media doesn't ask, "Is the man crazy?" They ask, "Will Donald Trump succeed in the negotiations?" As Sachs puts it, they don't say that. They say, "Well, will Donald Trump succeed in the negotiations?" As if this is a serious thing rather than technical term, sorry Shurto. This normalization is deadly. Because when the media treats fantasy as reality, the public loses its ability to distinguish between serious policy and sound bites, actual plans and improvisation, rational decisions and impulsive reactions. Without this ability, democracy cannot function. Citizens cannot make informed choices, and the system collapses into performance rather than governance. Sachs makes an important historical comparison. You wouldn't think that this is how this is done, but you wouldn't think that a person like Trump could actually be president of the United States, much less a CEO of a significant business. Think about that. In the private sector, a CEO who ran a company this way, with no planning, no analysis, just improvisation, will be fired immediately. Yet, as president, Trump gets a pass. Why? Because the media normalizes it. Because the public has become accustomed to it. Because the alternative seems unimaginable. Sachs captures the absurdity. It's amazing, but it's normalized. This normalization is perhaps the most dangerous aspect of all. When chaos becomes normal, there's no baseline for calling it out. When improvisation becomes expected, there's no standard for demanding better. And when Shurto becomes acceptable, there's no line left to cross. Let's connect these dots. Sachs identifies a pattern across multiple policy areas. The State of the Union as a jeering show with no substance. Economic policy as seat-of-the-pants impulsivity rather than analysis. Military decisions made without planning or rational process. Media normalization of absurdity. This isn't coincidence. This is systemic. This is the replacement of governance with performance. The replacement of policy with spectacle. The replacement of rational decision-making with improvisation. And it's happening at the highest levels of the world's most powerful nation. Sachs doesn't mince words. There's nobody does any serious work. This isn't hyperbole. This is observation. From economic policy to military strategy, serious work has been replaced with sound bites, impulses, personal relationships like Trump and Netanyahu. Fantasy scenarios. Pick the next supreme leader. Sachs' analysis reveals something deeper than just poor governance. It reveals a fundamental shift in how power operates. In traditional governance, decisions are based on analysis, policies are developed through deliberation, contingencies are planned for, experts inform decisions. In Trump's governance, decisions are based on impulse, policies are developed on the spot, no contingencies exist, experts are ignored. This isn't just inefficient. It's dangerous, especially when nuclear weapons are involved. Sachs points to the military leaks showing that none of this is planned. None of it makes sense. When a nation with nuclear weapons operates without planning or rational process, the entire world is at risk. This isn't just an American problem. It's a global security crisis. In conclusion, Dr. Jeffrey Sachs gives us a rare and unfiltered look at the real state of American governance. Not strength, not leadership, but a jeering show, a government where everything is improvisation. Nothing is serious work. No next plans exist. Rational processes have collapsed. This isn't how serious nations operate. This isn't how responsible leaders govern. This is how reality shows create drama. And the most terrifying part? It's normalized. The media treats fantasy as reality. The public has become accustomed to chaos. And the world watches as the most powerful nation on earth abandons rational governance for performance. Stay tuned for more analysis right here on The Informed Perspective. Until next time, stay informed and think critically.
Israel is putting out obsolete propaganda Netanyahu's virtual news briefing conference. The line that is coming out from Israel is, they are collapsing. Iran is collapsing. Their command system, their leadership and their command system is in chaos. They don't know who's in charge any longer. It's a complete chaos. They are breaking down. And, we have destroyed utterly their nuclear capability, Netanyahu said, and we've destroyed their capability of assembling and constructing new missiles. Hoping, I suppose, that people don't remember, he said exactly the same thing after the June war, that they destroyed both the ballistic missile capacity and the nuclear prospect. But it's quite clear the interest of Israel, at least the faction in circles around Netanyahu, because others in Israel are saying other things. But those that are in the Netanyahu circles are very clear that unless it can be presented as a great success, presented mainly for Trump's interest as a great success, that everything is going successful, then there is going to be a crisis in the United States for Israel and for Trump. So they have to keep the propaganda flowing full stake in order to say, no, everything is going perfectly. There's no problems at all. This is a great success. And of course, it's Trump's success.